David George Brooke with an E on the end. He's also known as that gratitude guy. He's going to be talking about neutralizing obstacles through gratitude. He has been a speaker, a coach, and best-selling author for over 25 years. He is a former Nordstrom store manager, legendary historical spot for retailer for over-the-top customer service, and he has managed in the corporate world for over 30 years. His published works include that Gratitude Guy's Daily Gratitude Journal, Monday Morning Minutes, 6-Word Lessons to Embrace Gratitude, and a number of other books on gratitude. As a result of his passion for illustrating the wonders of a gratitude mindset, he has presented over 850 speeches and workshops in the past 9 years, including over 150 Zoom presentations in the last 18 months. He was recently featured in Forbes and Costco Connection magazines and travels nationally and internationally to deliver this important message. As a YouTube influencer, David has over 1,800 gratitude videos on YouTube, as thousands have seen his message, and he is now considered a leading authority on how living a life of gratitude can enhance and improve your life, both personally and professionally. Let's please give a very warm welcome to David George Brooke, that gratitude guy.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I appreciate that. And yes, I do not use PowerPoint. And so if you have your camera on, that's great. I'm not focused on somebody's background, as Kathy said, or anything like that. But this is a very interactive talk. It's about 55 to 60 minutes long. I talk very fast. I would ask you to have a pad of paper or a piece of paper rather, and a pen handy. The more you participate, the more you will benefit. So it's something that I just, again, as I said to Shannon and Kathy earlier about PowerPoints and the thing doesn't work and then the slides, and I want to look at as many faces as I can. If you have your camera on, great. If not, I would ask you to use the reactions, virtual hand raise and or thumbs up or high five, because I'm going to ask you some questions and we'll kind of see how the Launchpad Job Club does as opposed to my normal group, or not normal, but other groups that just get really involved in the talk. And I've been a speaker for about 10 years now, and I've watched many, many speakers. And sometimes I admit they go interactive, go, oh God, am I going to have to participate in something? I just want to watch somebody. So it's just going to be more thumbs up. And if you smile or laugh or something, that's fine. But as Kathy said, neutralizing obstacles through gratitude. So here's what's interesting to me. You and only you choose how you want to live your life. You can choose an attitude of gratitude, which is what I am all about. But choosing an attitude of gratitude will make you happier, healthier, and lighter. You know, just listening to Matt talk about losing his job from Dell, he said about a year ago, it's challenging out there. And sometimes just having a positive attitude is difficult. It's very interesting. So, but we're surrounded by millions of nuggets of gratitude that we see every single day. And I'm here to help you see them. So as I say, very interactive. So please participate as we come across these exercises. And I think it'll really make a big difference. But first of all, it depends on how you look at something. Again, I was listening to Matt thinking, God, he's got a pretty good attitude. He went through some health things and he's been out about a year or so forth, but he's positive. I got to get out there and get a job. He's got a great attitude. You control that. You can get out of the bed on the left side or the right side of your bed. You can be happy or sad, grateful or ungrateful, negative or positive. It's a choice. Nobody gets in your brain and rewires your brain and says, oh, I'm going to take you from positive to negative. But it does depend on how you look at it. It's your choice on how you look at something. Nobody, again, makes that choice for you. I happen to live in Seattle. I live across the lake from Seattle. It's in Bellevue. There's a floating bridge. I used to run all these 10K races. And one day I was running a 10K race about 6 miles from Bellevue into Seattle and ended up inside a Husky Stadium. And I went across the floating bridge and I'm running. It's like raining and I'm pumping. There's like all these people in front of me. And I'm thinking, I'm just struggling. Little kids are passing me. And it's like, stories going on here. It's like, I used to be a good runner. And I look up and I can see the bridge kind of in front of me where it kind of bows up. And I thought, let me see what's going on behind me. And I look behind me and there's just thousands of people all the way back to Bellevue, or a place called Medina where Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and some of those guys live. And I turned back around and I thought, here's what's interesting. There weren't that many people in front of me, but the people in front of me, if they weren't here, I would be in first place. I mean, what if none of those people decided to come today and they got their sore thumb or their sore toe or something like that? So it just depends on how you look at something. So let's talk about this elephant in the room from the last couple of years. As you heard Kathy say, I did about 150, 175 talks. I had to learn how to do them on Zoom because I was so used to doing things in person. But how about some of the silver linings from the pandemic? Yes, it was bad. Yes, it was tough. People passed away. I lost 3 or 4 good friends. It was a very, very tough, challenging 2-year time, and there's still pieces of it that are kind of extended today. But how about some of these things? The pandemic made us reevaluate our priorities. What's important? The whole world went through this thing together. I don't think the world's ever been united on something before. Technology, I think it was John saying something about the semiconductor industry, but the whole technology. Look at this Zoom thing. I'm looking at all you people, and I'm out here in Seattle, and you're in various parts of the country and so forth, and that's just incredible technology, which I think is really, really expanded during the pandemic. Science, I don't think there was ever a vaccine that was done that fast. The efficiencies of working from home. I used to have a friend of mine who does these videos for me. I'd travel an hour to Starbucks, have an hour drink of coffee with him, and then an hour back to my house. Now we meet on Zoom for an hour. I have 2 hours I never had before that I get back from traveling and going through the traffic. All this convenience every once a week, knock, 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 knock. It's Amazon Fresh, and I've got like 6 new bags of groceries. Don't even have to leave the condo. I mean, it's just so incredibly important. And maybe the best part of all, as I alluded to earlier, is the community. When you're in something together, there's a bond. Look what's happening in Lahaina and Maui, and all these people are coming together. They said on the TV yesterday that some of the people that were volunteering the most at the homeless places were the people that lost their homes, and they're actually helping other people because they've been through a tough time too. So, and it really helps with the mindset, because so much of it is just sort of the attitude that you have. Again, I'll say it several times. In fact, I should say my favorite saying: gratitude turns what you have into enough. And you don't want to be comparing yourself to other people, and don't worry about what other people have. Don't worry about other people. Just worry about that person you see brushing your teeth. And if you get a great attitude towards that person, everything in your life's going to work better. So let's start with the first exercise. Go to your pad of paper or your piece of paper and your pen. And here's what I'd like you to do. This is called the UR exercise, YOUARE. You can write that down if you want. So those 2 words. So for the next 60 seconds, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you exactly 60 seconds on the timer. I want you to pretend you are your biggest cheerleader. Who thinks you're the neatest person on this earth? Your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, mother, father, best friend, whoever that person is. Just picture who that person is. And for 60 seconds, I want you to be that person. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to write as many things that you can that start with the words you are, that person thinks of you. You are talented. You are creative. You are happy. You are hardworking. Whatever it might be, how they see you, write as many things as you can. 60 seconds, go. Okay, there are 60 seconds. So here's what I want you to do. It took you 60 seconds to write those things down. So you've got some sort of pad of paper or some piece of paper, wherever you got that you wrote on those things. And there was 60 seconds worth of thinking about that. It's going to take you about 10 seconds to reread them all. So reread them all carefully. You are talented. You are happy. You are creative. However they would say that. And read through those, take about 5 more seconds to look at all those things. And then with a thumbs up to the camera or a virtual thumbs up, how many people feel better about themselves after reading that list? Thumbs up, high five, whatever you want to do. Look at all these Launchpad people. I'll tell you, so yes, that makes such a difference. In fact,
that was easy.
Yes, that was easy, because it's not very hard to look at Jim Bryce. He's got the thumbs up, rocking and rolling and stuff. That's what a gratitude attitude will do for you. And that's what a gratitude journal can do for you. It makes such a big difference. And we'll talk about the journal. That's kind of the centerpiece of my talk. And Kathy mentioned in the bio, that Gratitude Guys Daily Gratitude Journal. I'll put the links in the chat and so forth. You can buy this, but you can get a spiral notebook, whatever works best for you. But it makes such a big difference. And my suggestion is, because I do this in person all the time, as I mentioned, and so now this is obviously virtual, but maybe get a card, like this is a 3x5 card, or get a note card or something, and write down all those things that biggest cheerleader wrote about you, and put it on your bulletin board, put it on your refrigerator, put it on the desktop somewhere, pin it somewhere. So if you're having not that good of a day, you can look and see what that biggest cheerleader thinks about you, and that'll definitely brighten your day, which is really so important. So very important. So next thing, you're known by the company you keep. It's so important. We've heard all the examples of one bad apple spoils the whole bunch and all that type of thing. And it's, if you're hanging out with suspect people, you're going to be a little bit suspect. So it's really, really important. And I remember I worked at the University Bookstore when I was going to the University of Washington when I graduated from there back in the late 60s, early 70s. And I worked for this guy that was probably, I don't know how old he was, but he had this little sign in the office and it had a message all written on it, all neatly written on it in lettering and so forth. And I read the message and I thought, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And then it wasn't until later I went, wow, I remembered that sign. And I thought, that actually kind of makes sense. And the sign said, you meet respectable people where respectable people gather. If you're looking to find mountain trout, don't go fishing in a herring barrel. I thought, wow, that's pretty good. Because if you, it just depends, you're known by the company you keep. And it's so important. My father was a very negative person, unfortunately. And he was one of these people, I'd say, good morning, Dad. And he'd go, what's good about it? And I'd say, it's cloudy or it's rain, it's sunny. I'll get it right. It's sunny in Seattle. And he'd go, it's going to rain tomorrow. He always figured out the negative. I'm having coffee with him one day. Unfortunately, he took his own life when I was in my 20s. But I was having coffee with him in my teens. And I said, I've never heard somebody who complains as much as you do. He goes, David, did it ever occur to you I might just like to complain? And I thought about it for a second. I said, well, did it ever occur to you I may not want to hang out with you then? Who wants to hang out with somebody who's complaining all the time? I don't. So important. So, all right, next little exercise. This is called the association evaluator. Go back to your pad of paper again. Go down a little further down on the page or wherever you have some room. And this you can think about this, but I'm going to have you do it real quickly, but you may want to think about it later too. So there's going to be 3 things involved here. Number 1, I want you to write down the names of these people. Now, it's either going to be 0, 1, or 2. 0, 1, or 2 people you should disassociate with. You know who they are. It may be 0, but there might be 1 or 2 people you should probably disassociate with because they're not real healthy for you. So you can do it right now, or you can maybe do it later today if you want to think about it for a little bit. But most people don't have to think about it too much because they know there's people that aren't healthy for them in their lives. All right, that's point 1. Point 2, 0, 1, or 2 people you should limit your association with. This can be people you work with. It can be family members. It can be people that you're probably going to see as part of your daily routine or weekly, whatever it might be. But at the same time, but they're just, you need to limit your association with it because they're not real positive influences on your life. That's number 2. Number 3, 0, 1, or 2 people you should enhance your association with. I already know I'm going to enhance my association with Shannon because her middle name is my name. So that was impressive to me that we're connected somewhere way back when, but especially Brooke with an E. But 0, 1, or 2 people that you should enhance your association with. So as I mentioned, so work on that. If you do it now, great. If you do it later, that's fine. I'm from Seattle. All these companies started in Seattle, Microsoft and Boeing and Amazon and Starbucks and Nordstrom and all that. I'm about 2 blocks from a Starbucks. So here's how you use the litmus test on this little association evaluator. You go to Starbucks with the first person, somebody you should disassociate with. You're there for an hour. You say goodbye. You go get in your car and you sit in your car and you go, that is an hour I will never get back again. That is a total waste of an hour. That's somebody you should probably disassociate with. Number 2, the person that you should limit. You go to your car. Yeah, you can kind of take it or leave it. It was not that bad. It was all right. I mean, it was just like what it is, but it was kind of neutral in some ways. But the enhanced association one, you go to Starbucks, you have a coffee with them, you go to your car, 1 hour feels like 10 minutes. It goes by so fast because you're enjoying their company and you're enjoying their positivity or the relationship that you have or whatever. So very important. So think about that and make good choices when it comes to your associations because it really can impact you. Jim Rohn, a famous speaker, once said you're the common denominator of the 5 closest people that you have in your life. So, all right, next thing I want to talk about, gratitude's power. How do we harness gratitude's power? Most people know that 2 people go into a hospital with the same disease. The positive attitude lives, the negative attitude dies. They've proven it over and over again, same disease and so on. So a lot of it has to do with just how you frame these things. And yes, gratitude has a lot to do with being positive, and there's positive versus negatives, as I've mentioned, but it does make such a difference, and especially that example in the hospital. Years ago, I learned how to fly at a Boeing field, a place here in Seattle. And my instructor one day, this is in the late 70s, early 80s, and he said to me, way before I was that gratitude guy, 30, 40 years before, they said, you're going to be grateful if you pay attention to the lesson today. And I said, really? Okay. He goes, yeah, pay attention. This is about instrument flying. When you get into the clouds, you're going to want to know this. You're going to want to pay attention. It could save your life. You're going to be very grateful. So he tells me, here's what I want you to do. Understand, there's instruments on the dash here. And there's different various instruments, but they never lie. But your stomach and your head and your heart and your being will tell you something different based on how your body feels. And he said, always believe your instruments. That was the lesson. Always believe your instruments. And I said, okay. So I didn't think much of it. 6 months later, I'm flying along in this little airplane with 3 friends of mine, and we're going down to Ocean Shores to get into it, to go have a cup of coffee or lunch or something. And we get into the clouds, and I'm not paying attention. And all of a sudden, the plane starts going like this over to 30, 40. It's almost to a 60-degree bank, which is not quite 90. I realized I'm going to flip over in this plane and we're going to crash. So guess what I thought? I thought we were straight and level. He was so right. And that word came back to me. You're going to be grateful you paid attention to me. So I hit the heading bug. The heading bug turned the plane back to straight. I had so much vertigo. I thought I was upside down. But I hung in there and I believed what those instruments said. And I kept pulling up, keeping it straight and level. Eventually, we got above the clouds. And I said to my buddies, I think we're going back to Seattle because there's too much bad weather down here. But it essentially saved my life. That's how powerful gratitude can be. So another thing I'd recommend with gratitude, we know how important exercising is. Exercise is important throughout your life, especially you get to be my age and you want to take good care of yourself or whatever age you might be at. But try to do a gratitude walk. Do a walk every day and think about what are two or three things that you're grateful for. You're going to be out there listening to a podcast or Audible or whatever you might be doing, but do that gratitude type thing and think about what that subject, and try to have a different subject every single day. So, all right, next, the science of gratitude. So what's the story with this gratitude thing? Is this a bunch of woo-woo science or whatever? I mean, what's this guy talking about from Seattle? Well, there's a lot of research and a lot of studies behind the whole gratitude thing on the attitude that we have, the brain that we have, the approach that we take to life and so forth. So this is some science, some studies and research. So I'm going to kind of read this fast, but I thought this was really interesting. This is what some of the research has said. Appreciating what we have measurably improves our relationships, our life satisfaction, our health, our sleep, and it improves our physical health, leading to fewer aches and pains, lower blood pressure, and less depression. Grateful people are more likely to take care of their health, exercise more often, and schedule regular checkups. Gratitude reduces toxic emotions like envy, resentment, frustration, anger, and aggression, and enhances positive emotions like empathy, caring, and sympathy. Too much of our time is spent pursuing things we currently don't have. Gratitude reverses that and realigns our priorities to appreciate what we currently have. Happiness is rarely constant. So although happiness is a fantastic goal, gratitude for the tools that get you there are more important. How easily we can lose sight of everything we have to be thankful for when the circumstances of life become unpleasant. Think about those 2 years. It was pretty easy to feel bad about things that were going on around us. And lastly, we are our own worst critics and we hold ourselves to impossible standards and we continually compare ourselves to others. Don't do that. Gratitude turns what you have into enough. Science says that the more you choose positive and kind words to describe yourself, your health, your body, and your progress, the less anxiety you will experience. So very, very important. So it's not just a bunch of baloney. There's definitely things to it. So makes a big difference. All right. So the science is pretty much proven through studies and research and so forth. Next, it takes as long as it takes. Never give up. I've referenced Matt a couple of times. I'm sure it's been a frustrating year for him when he talked about his health issues and work and so on and so forth. But you just can't give up. It's so important. Patience is truly a virtue. We've heard that before. And just think back on times when you faced a big hurdle and you got through it. And the reason that you got through it is because you stuck with it. And one of the things I'll talk about when I get in a couple of moments here to the gratitude journal, when you're spending 5 minutes every morning like I do on a gratitude journal, it's amazing how it's almost impossible to be in a bad mood because you're focusing on your blessings and abundance, and it makes such a big difference. So really important. All right, next exercise. This is going to be another 60-second one. So I want you to go on your piece of paper somewhere. And this is actually going to involve homework. So I'm going to ask you that today is April 25th. So a week from today is September 1st, believe it or not. And so I'll just tell you that heads up. But I want to get you started on it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 60 seconds on this. And I want you to write as fast as you can, in no particular order, the most memorable events of your life. Write as many as you can: trips, travel, marriage, kids, family, vacations, whatever it is, whatever the most memorable events of your life. Write as many things as you can in 60 seconds. Go. Okay, there's 60 seconds. And as I said, this is going to involve homework. Now, I can't check on you to see if you do your homework, but I will tell you it'll benefit you. So as I say, Friday, August 25th is today. A week from today is September 1st. What I'd like you to promise me you'll do is a week from today, I would like you to expand on that list. And you can do one of three things. That's four. One of three things: top 25, top 50, or top 100. You pick whatever it is, and put them in priority order, the most memorable events of your life. Now, at my age, having been around a while, it's sitting right on that bulletin board. There's 100, the top 100 most memorable events of my life. My number one is my son, younger son, and number two is my older son. And then it just goes on, speaking to 10,000 soldiers at Joint Base Lewis McChord, learning how to fly, owning an airplane. It just goes all through the things for the 7 decades that I've been around. So when you get that done, and like I said, try to get it done in the next week or so, print it out, put it in priority order, the most important things at the top. And again, top 25, top 50, or top 100, and then print it and put it on a bulletin board or put it on your desktop on a Word doc or whatever it might be, somewhere you can reference it occasionally. Because the whole idea behind these exercises, I made such a big deal at the beginning about not doing PowerPoint. The whole idea with these exercises is they're designed to have you get back on track on those days when you get off track or you get derailed or whatever. You know, it's great when you feel great every day, but on those days when you don't feel good and you got things that aren't going as well, you look at that UR card and you see how your person that was really an important person in your life saw you. You look at the memorable exercises and things like that. And then coming up, we'll have the gratitude journal exercise, which really, really makes a difference. But it's so, so very important. And so keep that. Please do that homework. I won't make you raise your hand, but please do that homework in the next week. And it'll really be something that can give you a really big lift on those days where things aren't going quite as well. All right, next, make room for gratitude. Clear out your brain. You can't have a bunch of junk in your brain. I've seen these housing developments around here where they have 3-car garages and some even have 4. And I've driven by and like all the garages are floor to ceiling boxes from bottom, just everything. And there's like a little 12-inch area where they walk in and get their little boxes. How can you, and aren't those garages supposed to be for cars? Holy old cow. They're just filled with junk and so forth. So very important. Make room for gratitude. Get rid of this stuff. It's the same reason why I have that association evaluator. Get rid of those negative people. They're not helpful for you. They're just dragging you down. I'm somebody who's never been a drinker, smoker, drugs, any of that kind of stuff. And I've had some good friends of mine that were alcoholics and they stopped and they told me the biggest thing they had to do is get new friends because all their old friends still wanted them to drink. And so it's really important to just sometimes you got to clear out that garage and get those people out of the way. So, but the question is, how fast can you change? Well, you heard in the intro from Kathy, I worked at Nordstrom for a long time. I started as a store manager, or started as a selling suits rather, and worked up to store manager and managed a bunch of the big stores and stuff. But when I was just a suit manager, I was in the lunchroom one day and I was winning all these contests. And that's how you got ahead at Nordstrom, is you sold a lot and then you got promoted to manager and then assistant manager, manager, buyer, merchandiser, and then store manager, small store, etc. And so I'm in the lunchroom one day and this guy comes up to me, and I'll never forget his name. His name's Steve Saray. And he goes, "Aren't you Dave Brooke, the suit manager?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can I tell you what the story is on you around the store here?" I went, "I guess so." And he goes, "Yeah, everybody knows you think you're hot, SH, you know what the word is." I went, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, you walk around, you don't talk to anybody. You just walk around your little suit and your little shiny shoes and your little perfectly tied tie, and you don't talk to people because you're just too cool for school." And I thought, gosh, thank you. And so I shook his hand. I said, "Steve, thank you for having the guts to say that to me. That really means a lot to me." I walked out that door. I snapped my fingers. I started saying hi to everybody. I was the friendliest guy in town. I knew everybody from cosmetics to lady shoes to gifts to POV, whatever the departments were, gallery, you name it. And I noticed the escalators, which kind of crisscross like an X. They don't go any faster or any slower, I should say, when you're talking and saying hello to people. They go at the same speed. "Hi, how's it going? How's everything in men's shoes? Yeah, what's happening in men's sportswear? Good to see you." I became the friendliest guy in the store, totally change the view people had of me. That's how fast you can change. You've been to seminars and workshops and things, and they say, you know, it takes 3 weeks to change an attitude. It takes 30 days to change a behavior, to develop a new habit, whatever. Maybe that's true. All I know is I believe you can snap your fingers and do something different immediately if you have a big enough desire. And I didn't want to be known as somebody who was hot, you know what. And so it made a big difference to me. And I think it really helped me as I grew through the different promotions and work with different people. So, okay, next thing, this is the centerpiece of what I talk about, the gratitude journal. So very important. As I mentioned, you know, as I said, I'll put it in the chat, the gratitude journal, that gratitude guy's daily gratitude journal. So how is this formatted? I could show you mine that I wrote in this morning, but this is a blank one. But it says gratitude today. It says day and date. So today is Friday, August 25th, of course. And then there's a daily number, which I'll come back to. There's 2 lines for current events and special occasions. So that's why you don't have to have a diary. You can kind of, I put on there, I'm speaking to Launchpad Club, Job Club today, and so forth. 5 or 6 lines of what you're grateful for, where it kind of cues you up. I am grateful for, you write that in. Then there's 2 lines, which is the highlight of your day, which is kind of cool. Like, what's the best thing that happened yesterday if you write in the morning? And then on the right-hand side is gratitude intentions. And that's what you're grateful for that hasn't even happened yet. Your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what something it thinks has happened and has actually happened. So you can program yourself. And I remember writing in there, I'm so grateful to speak to 100 people. And then I spoke to 100. Then it was 1,000, then 5, then 10,000. Then I started writing a million. I have one of my videos has 1 million views. So you can program your brain how you want it to be. So very important. It makes such a big difference. And interestingly enough, but I think it's so important to set such a good example. And here is on mine, you're not going to be able to see it really well, but it says at the very top, Launchpad Job Club Talk. My son Connor's in town. They've already written this morning, right before I talk and did a mic check to Shannon and Kathy. And that's so important. And there's a little saying in the very front, the second page, it says, if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you. There is something empowering. This thing called a pen and this piece of paper, or a journal in this case. I am so grateful to Shannon Brooke Mantram for inviting me to the Launchpad Job Club. It plants it in your brain. And so it's really important because you can do talking to the mics and it'll print and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. But again, it's something that's just so important to plant it here, and it keeps it. And again, all these things are designed to keep you focusing on gratitude. And, you know, it's important because I've heard, again, I mentioned a couple of people already, but there's things when we go through challenging times, it's not easy. Nobody said life is going to be fair or easy. It's neither. But there are ways you can prepare yourself to take that punch to the gut and not have it knock its wind out of you. So important. All right. So here's the gratitude exercise we're going to do. So go back to that proverbial piece of paper. And what I want you to do is I want you to write, you're going to write numbers 1, 2, 3. But before we do that, I want you to think about, this is what I call your daily number. And I want you to think about a number, and you're not going to share this with anybody. And I see about a third or half of the cameras are on, so I'm not going to pick on anybody. But I want you to think kind of what your frame of mind is today. 1 is a terrible day. 10 is one of the best days ever. So whatever that day is, or whatever that number is, I want you to write that number down and put a circle around it. And you could be a half. You could be having a pretty good day. You're a 7.5 or an 8 or whatever it might be. Or you could be having a tough day, maybe a 4 or 5, but be honest with yourself and write that down. That's the first thing. Write that number down, put a circle around it. All right, next, then you're going to have, I mentioned earlier, 1, 2, 3. You're going to do 3 things. And here's what I want you to do. On numbers 1 and 2, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds for this. On numbers 1 and 2, I want you to write number 1, the one thing you are more grateful for in your life than anything else. If you could only pick one thing, put that at number 1. What's the thing that if you only pick one thing, that's the thing you're most grateful for above and beyond anything else. And then number 2 is the second thing. Write that down at number 2. And that's the second thing if you could only pick 2 things. And then the third thing, and this is why I'm going to give you 30 seconds. What was the highlight of your day? I think you guys are Central Time Zone, so you're probably 11:06, so it's still pretty early in the morning. So this is for yesterday. What was the highlight of your day yesterday? So I'll give you 30 seconds to write the thing you're most grateful for, the second thing, and then the highlight of your day yesterday. 30 seconds. Okay, so now You got that number at the top of the circle. You wrote number 1, number 2, number 3. Now, just like before, I gave you 30 seconds to write it down. It's going to take you 10 seconds. I want you to slowly reread number 1. I want you to slowly reread number 2 and slowly reread number 3. And after you've read those 3 things and planted them in your brain, I want you to write another daily number at the bottom of those 3. Could be the same number or it could have changed. But write that number at the bottom of the 3 things and put a circle around it. All right, and with a thumbs up, high five, virtual hand, whatever you want to do, how many people's number from the top to the bottom went up? High five to the screen, thumbs, whatever you want, clapping hands, you name it, virtual, John Sauer, there's the guy.
That was easy.
Once again, that was kind of easy because if you think that's a 30-second example, thank you, Angela Davis, thumbs up. That's a 30-second example of what writing in a gratitude journal will do for you. So can you imagine if you spend every day and you spent 5 minutes on this after what that did for 30 seconds? Most of the time when I'm in person, I'd say 90% of the hands in the room go up because they're actually they're actually writing it on a card that they have. And so it makes such a big difference. So again, it's so very important to take the time to think about what am I grateful for? And, you know, and I'm not too whatever to think about the fact that I have people that come up to me after my talks and say, you know, my best friend just passed away. What do I have to be grateful for? People challenge me on it. Well, how am I supposed to do this? I think, wow, it sounds like shades of my dad or something. Well, you know, there's tough things in life. Losing a job is tough. Going through a breakup is tough. All these, they're all tough. Nobody says those things are easy. These are just ways to help you through. You know, if you're a fast runner and you break your leg, you have your leg in a cast, you're not going to run the next day. I mean, you've got to put it in the cast, and then pretty soon the cast comes off, and then you get to walk again, and then pretty soon you get to jog, and at some point you're going to run again. But all this is designed to do is to help you have things that can be assisting you along the way. So, okay, so do me a favor. I'm very curious about the gratitude thing. Write this. This is my text number. Write this number down, 206-371-8309. 206-371-8309. Please text me the number 1 thing you're grateful for. I'm always curious. I speak in churches, I speak in corporations, I speak in all sorts of different places, and I'm always kind of curious the flavor of what people are. So 206-371-8309, and just what you're most grateful for. You can have 1 or 2 things, but I'm primarily looking for what's the one at the top of the list. It makes such a difference. And so I'll mention too that, you know, it's interesting, I keep coming back, as I said, this is kind of the centerpiece to mine is this journal. So I'll go when I'm in person. Next, in 2 weeks, I'll be in Las Vegas at Sahara for a big convention. And so I go to my book table and people come up and they talk about the talk. And I go, what's your biggest takeaway? And they tell me and so forth. And one day the guy grabs my gratitude journal and he sees it and he says, do you mind if I look through it? And I went, yeah, well, don't look at it too closely. But he kind of thumbs through it and stuff. And he goes, wow. He goes, you write in this every day. Were you in the talk? Were you in the room? Were you even like paying attention? Of course I write in it every day. Here's what I want to recommend. I think it's important for you to write in every day, but me, that gratitude guy, I don't do that because I just do it when I feel like it. Of course, do you brush your teeth every day? I mean, do you take a shower most days? I mean, there's certain things. It's that way. It's just part of it. And it used to be in one of my older gratitude journals, it said the Brooker, because that was my name in college. And my buddies would call me and say, I need a dose of the Brooker. And so I think, well, that was nice of them. I'll inspire them and they think I'm inspiring and so forth. Well, now, since I've been the gratitude guy for this last 10, 11 years, whatever it's been, those same guys call me and they go, I'm really having a bad day. I need some inspiration. And I go, let me ask you something before we go any further, Gary, Rand, Chuck, Chris, whichever one it might have been. And I go, have you written in your gratitude journal yet? And they go, no. I just hang up the phone. So invariably, like 10 seconds later, they call back. I think we got cut off. I go, no, we didn't. I hung up on you. Write in your gratitude journal and then call me. Gosh, I'll be your training wheels. Well, I'm not going to pedal your bike, for gosh sakes. For those of you that have faith, I think the good Lord gives you a toolkit, but I think you have to build the house. I mean, you got to take some responsibility here, but it makes such a big difference. The most important relationship, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, as we wind up in the next 10 minutes or so, is this relationship you have with yourself. It's so critical. So how do you reinforce that all the time? Again, through job loss, through relationship loss, through deaths, destruction, all these things. As I said, I've been on the planet 7+ decades. I've seen my wife passed away when my sons were 4 and 14. My dad took his own life. My mom died of cancer. I've had all these things happen to me. And yet I'm not going to let that define me. I'm still going to try to find the best thing that life can offer. Waking up every single day is a blessing. 70,000 people will not wake up tomorrow morning in the world. That's they go to bed and they don't even wake up. So sometimes the head hits the pillow and I just think, wow, I hope I wake up tomorrow. I got a talk to do tomorrow. I hope I wake up early enough for mic check and so on. So anyway, it makes a big difference. So, all right, what I want to talk, I just alluded to this. Find yourself, find your talent, find your passion, find your purpose. These are these 4 elements I think are so very important. I think it's so important, this relationship we have with ourselves. It's that person you see brushing your teeth. If you have a good relationship with yourself and getting gratitude and writing in a gratitude journal and focus on your blessings and abundance will help you with that. It makes such a difference. Some of the strangest behaviors and people that we know in our life that tell us, oh, I have this much money, I have this boat, I have that, they're trying to impress you, are people that don't have self-esteem, lack self-esteem, lack self-confidence, self-awareness. Well, when people feel good about themselves, they don't feel the need to try to impress you because they already feel pretty good. So I think it's so very important. There was a friend of mine, I used to go to Reno because I mentioned I live in Seattle. We go to Reno and we haven't done it for a long time, but we'd go down there and gamble. And years ago, we were playing the slot machines and I hear him screaming. And he's like, I look over there and the lights are on. He put a couple of quarters in this machine. It's $1,000. So it's 1,000 quarters. His name was Rand. And so he goes, Brooker. And I go, what's going on? I go over and he's going like this with his hands and the quarters are falling down. And I'm sitting there watching $1,000 worth of quarters, quite a few quarters. And I'm watching it fall down. And he says, I'm buying dinner. And I'm so excited. I'm patting him on the shoulder. I'm so happy for you. That's so exciting. But then I thought about it a little bit and I just privately thought to myself, I'm really happy for him. I'd be just a teeny bit happier if it was me. Wait a minute. Is that bad? Is that like being selfish? No, I'm just being honest. That's just being truthful. So that relationship, how you work that relationship is so very important. And so as it relates to that, if I was in person, here's a $20 bill. So if I was in person, I'd be right down in the first row and I'd be handing this to people and saying, who would like this $20 bill? Most people will raise their hand. And occasionally you got somebody look at you like, yeah, okay, speaker. Yeah, whatever. There's obviously some catch to this. It's a fake 20 or you're not going to give it to me or whatever. But I give it to them and I say, how many would do it? So they raise their hand. Then they go like this and I crunch it up and I go, now, how many people would take it? And most of the people raise their hand. And then I put it on the floor and I stomp on it. And I smooth it out like this. And I go, now, how many people would take this? And again, most people will raise their hand. So then I look at the $20 bill with Andrew Jackson and I say, you know what, Andrew Jackson, you're a piece of baloney. You're worthless. I don't even know why you're on this planet. People don't even think anything of you and you're just trash. And the fact that you were even born was kind of a mistake, and just rip old Andrew Jackson. And he looks back at me and he says, well, you know what, Mr. Speaker, man, you can say whatever you want about me, but I'm still worth $20. And he would be right. So why do you let somebody crush you or step on you or say you're not worthy, or bad things that people say to other people, which is shocking to me, and let them get away with it? And probably the worst thing of all is devalue you from 20 to 15 to 10 to 5 to 0. It's so amazing to me how cruel people can be to people. You get a good gratitude attitude and you get really focused on your blessings and abundance. You write in a gratitude journal every day, that type of thing, you will avoid that. So important. Find yourself. Next, your talent. Make your strengths productive. Make your weaknesses irrelevant. Do not focus on your weaknesses. I can speak to 10,000 soldiers down at Joint Base Lewis McChord, about 60 miles from here. Don't get nervous. It doesn't bother me. I enjoy speaking to our military, but I can't draw a circle to save my life. So I'm not going to go take an art class. It doesn't make sense to me. So make your strengths productive, make your weaknesses irrelevant. So critical. So finally, once you've got a good connection with yourself, then you're going to figure out what your talent is. Then figure out what you're passionate about. What did you want to be when you grew up? Maybe you got into a job that you didn't really care for. It's what you got your degree in or whatever it might have been. But think about what you would do for free. What would you like to do every day that you would wake up and think, I'm so happy, and this isn't a job. This isn't work. This is something I enjoy doing. And so think about what that is. There's certain things you can't teach, though. You can't teach experience or confidence, or common sense is another one. You can't teach a know-it-all. You can't teach somebody to be grateful. You either get that or you don't. You can't force somebody to be grateful. And you certainly can't teach work ethic or personality. Those are sort of inherent. So, but it's really important. And just think about some of those things. I like especially, what did you want to be when you grew up? A lot of people they lost sight of what they really wanted to be. But it just doesn't matter. You can't, it doesn't, and plus it doesn't matter how long it takes. About 10 years ago, I was 63. I was managing a Lowe's store. I'd wanted to be a speaker since I was 19. And I just never did it. And I worked for Nordstrom, as you heard, and Lowe's, and different Lowe's as a store manager, and did other jobs and stuff. And I finally one day I quit Lowe's, and I came home about 2 p.m. Connor, 17 at the time, he's 28, 29 now. And he's sitting on the couch and he goes, "What are you doing home?" And I said, "Well, I quit." He's, "You what? You quit? You quit Lowe's?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You quit being a store manager?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, what are you going to do now?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be a speaker." He looks up from the couch and he goes, "Well, that's just super, Dad." I wasn't quite expecting that response. He says, "Now I have a question for you. What are we going to do for food?" I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah, that's okay. We'll work it out. And that was about 10 years ago. And I haven't looked back, although the pandemic was challenging for everybody. But I'm very, very passionate about it. And I think the ultimate thing is find yourself, find your talent, find your passion. I think you will then find your purpose. Human beings, I believe, are hardwired to find their purpose. If you can find something you love, you all heard that. If you love what you do, you never work another day in your life. There was a book once called "Do What You Love, the Money Will Follow." It's really, really true. So, but it's really important. And I look at people like Warren Buffett, I think is 88, Clint Eastwood is 91, Dick Van Dyke is like 94. There's these people that are still actually just making things happen. And I just think it's so cool. And having that purpose is such an important thing. So here's some questions you might want to write down just to think about. I think this is really important. What makes you feel really happy? I think that's a very individual thing. I think that's really important. What makes you feel really happy? Number one. Number two, what zaps your energy? Because you don't want to have things that are zapping your energy and that kind of thing. Thirdly, we just talked about this. How would you describe your passion? What are you most passionate about? That's going to be different, obviously, from one person to the next. And then finally, what can you do to align those three things? So that's a pretty good way, if you're making changes or want to make changes and things, to think about going a different direction. It's really, really neat. So, all right. So I'm going to say a couple more things, and then I want to get to our sharing gratitude as we wrap things up. Listening is so important. And I make a big deal of talking about certain things. And if you just remember one thing, remember this, and that's really important. But it's so important. There's a story of two guys that get on a plane in LA and they fly to New York, and one guy talks the whole way. And when they land, the guy that talks the whole way, his wife says, "How was your flight?" And he goes, "I met the nicest guy." Yeah, no kidding, because he listened to you for 6 hours. That's why you like him. And so it's so important. 2 ears, 1 mouth. We know that. So, but these are 2 3-word phrases I would like you don't have to write them down. If you want, you can. But if you want to have more friends than you know what to do with, you become a good listener. How do you become a good listener? When somebody is talking to you and they tell you their story and they stop, say, "Tell me more." Don't inject your story into the story. "Oh, I went to Hawaii. We've done this. We bought a car. We're going to have this." Don't inject yourself. Just say, "Tell me more." And the other one to use is, "And then what?" And they're telling you about their trip. The problem is there's so many people that you're telling about their trip, and before the person's even finished, you're telling them, or people are telling them about their trip. We're not talking about your trip. We're talking about the person that you talk to. It's amazing when you listen, and people, I get this, it just cracks me up. These people will say to me, I know this is hard to believe after 55 minutes of me just talking, but when I listen and listen carefully and take notes, and people go, "I just love talking to you." And I go, "Yeah, it's because I'm listening and I'm asking good questions and I'm following through and so forth." So very important. So, all right. So here's what I want to do. Sharing gratitude. This is where, and then let me just mention too, real quick before I, hold on. I put some links in the chat. I put them up a little higher. And so I just want to run over what these are. I have a complimentary 45-minute gratitude infusion call. I do a lot of coaching. People are looking for a lot of ways to apply gratitude to their life. So that's a 45-minute complimentary call. That's on there. I've got my email and my speaking and coaching websites on there. I do something called the Monday Morning Minute, and that's where every Monday I send out a 60-second video that has my message to people to kind of start their week off on a good moment, on a good gratitude topic, if you will. Next, my subscription on YouTube. You can subscribe to me. Of course, that's free. And then below that is the gratitude journal. And that just takes you right to Amazon if you're interested in that gratitude, guys, daily gratitude journal. And then the last thing is my gratitude infusion mastermind, which is complimentary. The first Wednesday of every month for 1 hour, I do a gratitude infusion mastermind. It's really fun. There's about 80 or 90 people on it right now, and sometimes 50 or 60, depending on how many show up. But we do about 20 minutes of training, and then I do a couple of breakout rooms, and then I kind of talk about the subject for next time. And so there's a link to register for that through Zoom. So, all right. So here's what I want you to do. Sharing gratitude. When you get excited about something, there is nothing more important to me than sharing it. So if you have your cell phone, grab your cell phone. I forgot to say that at the outset. Have a pad of paper, a piece of paper, and a pen, but also your cell phone. Neglected to say that, sorry. But this is called the 4 T's: text, tweet, telephone, or tell. Most people will text. And so what I'd like you to do is I'm going to give you the proverbial 60 seconds again. And I would like you to text somebody in your life and tell them how grateful you are to have them in your life. And it can be whoever you want, husband, wife, friend, best friend, children, you name it, whoever it is, you pick. But I'll give you 60 seconds to do it. Text them and please use the words grateful. I am so grateful for you for whatever reason. But text, and if you do more than once, that's fine too. But I'll give you 60 seconds to send that text to somebody. Go. Okay, there's 60 seconds. And if you want, you can do more later, but just please at least do one. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned, this is a virtual talk, of course, but in person, it's so funny. People come up to the book table and they show me their phones from their text. And the text says, "I'm grateful for you too. What do you want?" I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty hardcore. I'm just telling you, I'm grateful. Another one, the message said, "Are you sure you sent this to the right person?" And then there was one recently, it was a big hotel I was in, and this was really sad. I almost hesitate to say it, but the text back to his wife said, "Is everything okay? Is there an active shooter?" I went, oh my Lord, that's kind of the world. That's the world that we're in, sadly. But I remember being in a performing arts center where the seats, it was live, of course, and the seats went up at an angle. And there was a lady, and I said, text, telephone, tweet, or tell. So you can do the telephone too, although most people text. But she was on the telephone, and I could hear her right from 10 feet away from like over in the corner as I'm sitting at standing at the podium. And she goes, "Hi, honey, I just want to let you know," I'm assuming it was her husband, "I'm so grateful for you." And she says, "I just appreciate you and thank you and just my gratitude. And I'm so grateful." I don't know. Some speaker just told me to call you and tell you. No, you don't do that. It's supposed to be your idea, not my idea. I just will implore you, gratitude can make such a difference. It's a frame of mind. It's an attitude of gratitude. This will be the last time I'll say gratitude turns what you have into enough. It's so important. It's a choice you get to make. If you make an attitude of gratitude your choice every day, it's amazing how you can frame your life in such a way that it just is more positive. Your body appreciates it physically, mentally, emotionally, and it makes such a big difference. So thank you all for being a very good audience.